researched for over 30 years this particular subject, and I've spent a ton of money traveling all over the world and researching. That I had an epiphany about 35 years ago that changed my life, the way that I look at things, and things started coming together. So I don't have a PhD, I don't have a doctorate, but I'm a researcher, and I've been involved in a lot of best-selling books and have put things together for people that have made a difference in people's lives. So once I dedicated my life, when I had a second chance on life, to helping people, man, it's really happened. I think that I want to give a little bit of a background here, if I can, about where I've come from. The United States, to me, already is too bad of a place to live in. We are the proverbial frog that was put in cold water, and now it's boiling, and we all think we're in a hot tub, and everything is just peachy keen and copacetic. There's massive deception in this country about really how bad it already is. There's some things that's coming down the pike. I put the pieces of the puzzle together. I've looked and listened to the people that don't have an agenda, but that really are able to give what's really going on in the world. There's a cabal of people, but there are people out there that really can pull the strings. I think there's a lot of people that want to, power-hungry people that want to, but there is a group that is able to pull it off. And my greatest concern right now is these people, because of their belief in eugenics, want to reduce the world's population by 90%. They say it, they quote it, they're not shy about it, provide all the documentation that they're implementing it and how they're doing it. So there's a lot of scenarios that can come down the pike. I mean, just a bunch of, martial law. If Obama wants to sign martial law into effect tomorrow, it can be done. It's just a signature. But there's a lot of things that could potentially happen. Another Chernobyl, Fukushima type event, world war. I mean, look at what's going on in the Middle East right now with Israel. Things could get out of hand. We know that there's going to be tit for tat. There's countries that are raising their ugly head against each other, and they're fighting, and Russia's threatening, China's threatening. Russia said don't go into Syria to the United States, and so the world powers are kind of at a very tense edge right now. I think everybody knows that the economy of the United States is in deep, deep doo-doo. Anybody that looks at any graphs knows that it wasn't too long ago we were the greatest creditor nation on earth. We had more money than everybody. Now we're the greatest debtor nation on earth. We have more debt than 90% of the countries in the world combined. The economy could collapse. We could get into hyperinflation. There could be a pandemic. We came close last year to potentially having one where everybody has to be forced to be vaccinated. There's going to be people that don't want to be vaccinated. There's just a lot of things that can happen. We could have a natural disaster. Yellowstone could go. I really personally believe that there's going to be a lot of earth changes that are going to be taking place, gravitational pulls and things, and we're going to have greater earthquakes, greater weather anomalies, things like that. So there's a plethora of things that can possibly happen. And I believe it is because of all the people that I've already helped, the bajillions of people that have already left the United States and expatriated out of the United States, and then I already know that there are already millions of people that have left the country, but because of taxation, because of other things. But probably this is the other side of the coin that a lot of people don't look at. Do we have to wait till it's so bad that we don't want to live here anymore? Or do we look at it that there is somewhere or places, plural, on this planet that have a lot more freedom? They're tranquil, they're peaceful, they're real, they're just a better place to live. One of the things is that every single person that are listening right now, every single person, unless they're a Native American or they're a descendant of a slave, their ancestors, their relatives, left the country of their birth and came to the United States. Now, not all of them came fleeing King George in England or war or something absolutely horrible. Some of them just came for a better way of life. They weren't fleeing inevitable death. But some people, like the potato famine in Ireland, we got a huge amount of Irish immigrants because it was so bad in Ireland. There was starvation. It was happening. So everybody listening to my voice, your ancestors left the country of their birth. And sometimes, they left their families relatives. They left, in Nazi Germany, they left the grand piano, the trophies, the this, the that. I mean, every possession they had and whatever they could carry on their back, they got out before the Nazis came forward and took over, almost all of Europe. There's going to be debtors' prisons, concentration camps, re-education centers, all those sorts of things. And Stalin didn't build all those gulags to sit empty. Hitler didn't build all those concentration camps to sit empty. They were full to capacity. You don't spend that amount of time, energy, and effort building these things and let them sit empty. You know that you're going to fill them up, okay? Now, I don't want to go to concentration camp, neither do you. You're too intelligent, right? You don't want to end up in prison. There's just a lot of bad stuff that happens there, okay? But I don't think it necessarily has to be we're at that stage where they're rounding people up. For every one person that left, or you can say fled Europe on the march of the Nazis all the way across Europe, 21 people stayed behind and died. Now, not everybody died in concentration camps. They could have died of starvation. They could have died by actually thinking they were going to amalgamate into the Nazi system. They joined the SS, the Gestapo, or whatever, thinking that they would rise to power and they would be okay in this system. And yet they died, either because they were sent to the front lines or because of the war itself. So I don't think just going to the concentration camps is the only concern that we have here. They know, the people that go nameless, they do know that the world is coming to an apex, that there's going to be an economic collapse. We have rioting in the streets. We have rioting in the streets all over the world in first world countries and civilized countries because of the economic crises, because of a lot of different things. There's a breaking point for humanity, and we're seeing it all over the world as countries are being overthrown. It's just not the Middle East. It's not North Africa. I mean, there's some things that are going on all over the world. And we have this mindset in the United States. It can't happen here. Oh, my. I really struggle with people who think that it can't happen here. It can happen. If a pandemic happens and there's people are forced vaccinated, how many people you know are going to say no to the vaccine? Okay? I happen to have lived in the hill country of Texas for the last 10 years of my life, and I have friends both in both spectrums, from the left to the right, etc. And there are people that are just itching for this thing to happen, okay? Whether it's, what do you want to call it, civil war or the collapse of civilization in the United States so they can take the country back. There's a lot of people that see this happening. They sense it's going to happen, and I believe that it doesn't necessarily have to happen that way. It could happen with like I said, Yellowstone. If Yellowstone goes, or some natural disaster, or some total economic collapse. Research Detroit, Michigan right now. Look at what's happened in Detroit with 30% or more unemployment. 100 square miles of empty houses. The mayor of Detroit wants to bulldoze, 10,000, 15, 20,000 homes because they're just completely vacated. When we have 20, 30% unemployment in this country, we could have a big problem on our hands that the government will want to deal with in a way that we're going to freak out over, I think. The particular country that I have my other home in has a nominal amount of crime compared to the United States, which Americans should have, is this. In the entire world, 7 billion people on the planet, there's about 9 million people imprisoned. 25% of those people are in the United States. The United States is 4.3% of the world's population, yet 25% of all the people in prisons are in the United States. Now, 4.3% of the population, but 25% of all the people in the world in prison are in the United States. That has never happened before except in Stalinist Russia, Hitler's Europe, Pol Pot, Cambodia, etc. There should be some concern about this. You would think with those statistics, the highest incarceration rate in the world, 50% of all the countries in the world have 1/10 the amount of incarceration rate that the United States has. You'd think all of our criminals would be off the streets and they would be in prison. That's not so. The United States ranks as the highest crime country, violent crime country, which is murder, rape, and armed robbery in the world. Now, there's 3 or 4 or 5 countries that have higher murder rates than we do. We're number 1 in the world in rape, and we're number 1, number 2 in the world in armed robbery. There's crime here. You can go places in the world where you don't have to worry about crime. If you worry about crime, it's like maybe having your stereo stolen out of your vehicle. Would you rather be raped, or would you rather have a vehicle stolen out of your stereo stolen out of your vehicle? Would you rather be murdered, or would you rather have your home burglarized? When it comes to violent crime, Americans don't realize we're number 1 in the entire world. And history is something we should learn from, or else it's going to repeat itself. And I'm just providing the statistics and the facts. What I've done for 35 years is it's sort of like doing a jigsaw puzzle. Now, back in the 50s and 60s, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have a lot of things that people have today. We did jigsaw puzzles. And to do a jigsaw puzzle, you just dump everything out of the box and you turn everything upright so you can see that. And then you start finding the flat edges. And I used to do a lot of jigsaw puzzles, and I could do them really, really quick. There was a challenge that I had, is to do a jigsaw puzzle without looking at the box. Say the box was a barn with a little pond and 2 people there and the blue sky and the white clouds, etc. Well, looking at the box, you could pick up a piece and put things in. This whole thing that I've been doing is like doing a jigsaw puzzle. I'm putting pieces in and seeing the picture of the future of the United States, the future of the world, based upon all the facts and the information that have been given to me. And in the process of doing this, I began having these thoughts in my mind. Well, this is probably going to happen, and that's going to probably happen. And when those things did, as I saw the picture clear, I didn't think of myself as a prophet in the way that people think of prophets today, like a religious prophet or even Nostradamus and quatrains and all this sort of stuff. I just thought, man, I'm putting things together, and I can see into the future by just having a huge amount of information. The way that I've always described is like a weatherman. A weatherman can predict, let's say, they can say 3 days from now, we're going to have severe weather outbreak because this warm front with this moist air is going to meet with this cold front, etc. 72 hours later, perfectly sunny and 70 degrees and nothing even looks like it could potentially be bad. He's predicting the future. And I think that we all can look into the future a bit by looking at all the pieces of the puzzle, putting as many in as we possibly can, and we can see the future. We really can see into the future. I've spent 35 years doing this research, hundreds of thousands of dollars, traveled all over the world. Oh, my God. It's just, the most unbelievable information. I bet everybody listening to my voice right now knows there's, in the back of their mind, they might not want to think about it, but they know there's something innately wrong that's going on in the United States and in the world. And what they don't want to have is no choices. Just like in Germany or all of Europe, there were rumors about what was going on. There were people going, I'll never leave my home, my family, etc. But it got to be a point in time where it got so bad that it was life and death. It was a choice of life and death. And people that waited too long, they got caught behind the lines. Paper, please. Well, you don't have your papers, you never got out. We all have some sort of insurance, whether it's insurance for our automobile just in case we're in a car accident, or we might have, let's say, candles and a flashlight in the house just in case electricity goes off. But it may never go off, but we still have them. We might have a gun in the house to protect our wife and children and daughter from being raped or an intruder or something like that. We might have freeze-dried food just in case martial law is called or something goes bad at the grocery store, right? We have insurance. Well, this information is truly life and death. Maybe people would get this information and they would never use it, just like buying a cookbook and never actually making one of the recipes. I think most people have done something like that. But if this is the most important information when it comes to life and death, when it comes to surviving what I call the next 5 to 15 years on this planet, and a lot of things that are coming down in a prophetic sort of way, all the world's religions, all of them, I've studied them in depth, have a sort of what we'll call an end-time scenario. And almost all of them have very similar bloodbath, massive amount of death on the planet scenarios before the Messiah returns or the Imam Mahdi, which is just in an uproar over in Iran right now, or the Lord Maitreya in the fifth Buddha, Christ coming back, Jesus coming back, the Messiah coming back for the Jews. All these scenarios are coming into play here, and there are the potential for war, the potential for disease epidemics, the potential for famine and starvation, and huge amount of natural disasters, and ruthless governments taking away our freedoms and our right to have let's say, a high quality of life. And I think that this information gives people what they would know in the back of their mind. I know where I'd need to go. I know why I'd want to go there. For every one person that left Europe, 21 stayed put and died in World War II. 79 million people died in World War II. I know a lot of people that are hunkering down. But this is my mindset, and I know this. I don't want to come across any way, shape, or form just being arrogant. But this is what I believe. Let's say we're on the Titanic. We've been given this unbelievable spiel about this ship, okay? I mean, there's nothing in the world that's ever been built like it, etc. It's unsinkable, it's this, it's that, the other. The moment it hits the iceberg, there's probably only a few people on the entire Titanic that really know what's going to happen in the next few hours. They know for sure, 100% sure, that it's going to be at the bottom of the North Atlantic, deep, deep down there. Now, we've heard this story about, people rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. If, let's say, nautical engineers knew for sure that the Titanic was going down, we have hindsight because we know the Titanic, but if we knew for sure, all the people saying, let's go bail water, let's take a boat, let's just wait and see, we gotta protect the Titanic. I mean, this is the Titanic. It's not going down. I mean, this is too big to go down, right? We got to save the Titanic. All these sorts of things. We're going, you bet you don't understand. We have X amount of minutes. We got to get people in the lifeboats. We got to get off of this ship. It's going down. People looking at us and going, you're abandoning ship? You're chicken. You're yellow. You're a coward. You can't. They told us it can't possibly sink. And you're going, but I know for a fact it is. Now, 35 years of research. I've researched so much. I really do believe that the United States has been targeted by the globalists to be taken out. They just have. The United States, as much as I love the United States and as much as I have a huge amount of feelings for the United States, we're right now the big bully on the playground. We can kick sand in anybody's face. We can kick any of the kids off of the swing set that are smaller than us, etc. But to have a global governance, a new world order, to have the type of system they want in the world, you can't have one big, huge bully going around invading countries and assassinating people and killing people. You have to have this equal group of nations. I believe the United States is targeted, and I believe exactly what these people that do control the economies and global events in the world, they have targeted the United States for destruction. I'm absolutely convinced of it. And so I believe that you can hunker down here if you want to, and there'll be a few people that will survive, but I believe 90% of the people in the United States that are alive today that stay here will be dead in the next 5 to 15 years. I absolutely am convinced of it. Well, let's take the planet that we live on and really do look at it. Let me give you some absolute flat-out statistics. This is absolute fact. 90% of the world's population lives in the northern hemisphere. 10% of the world's population lives in the southern hemisphere. 95% of all the pollution generated in the world is generated in the northern hemisphere and does not cross the equator. That's called the Coriolis effect. All the air and all the water, like we're talking 99%, stays in its perspective hemisphere. It does not cross the hemisphere. Think about it. 5% of the world's pollution is in the southern hemisphere, but it's half of the planet. 85% of the world's rainforests that clean the air, that provide oxygen, are in the southern hemisphere. And it's only happened to clean out 5% of the world's pollution. Climates in the northern hemisphere are much more severe than the southern hemisphere. Any global climate change in the southern hemisphere, global climate change doesn't change much of anything. Severe changes in the northern hemisphere. There is so many people in the Northern Hemisphere, there are tensions, war, there's fighting over the few resources. It is completely different. In the Southern Hemisphere, it is quiet, tranquil, peaceful, other than a few places in Southern Africa. It is a completely different way of life. And if you have another Fukushima or you have a nuclear war, all that is going to generate in the Northern Hemisphere. None of that. Radiation, those isotopes, whether it's iodine-131 or uranium or plutonium or strontium, none of that crosses the equator and goes to the Southern Hemisphere. So if there's nuclear war between the United States and China, the United States and Russia, or Pakistan, things start getting out of hand, Pakistan, India, whatever, all that's going to circulate in the Northern Hemisphere. 15 years ago, I moved my wife and my two children. It is so much better than the United States by 1,000 different ways. I mean, it just, I cannot begin to tell you how much a different lifestyle it is to live in an area that's peaceful, that I have a home in. I don't own a home in the United States. I could certainly afford to have one, but I choose not to. I choose not to put my money and my time and my energy effort into developing things in the United States. I have in my safe haven country, but it is in the Southern Hemisphere. It's in the southern part of the Southern Hemisphere, and it is in South America. The whole bottom part of the southern part of South America, which would be Uruguay, Chile, and Argentina, are in the top 5 of the countries for survivability. I think it would be a disservice if I said, go to country ABC. And I'll tell you why. To me, and I've heard this from a lot of people, it'd be like getting one of those bookcases or some piece of furniture that you have to kind of put together and it have instructions. I believe that of all the deaths that are going to take place in the next 5 to 15 years, it's going to be because of these 5 things: war, disease, famine, natural disasters, and ruthless governments. And there are places where the country that I've moved to, I'm predicting less than 4% of the world's 4% of that population will die. But the vast majority of the countries are going to be 50, 70, 90, 100%. I believe in this collapse of civilization and with war and all the other things that are going to take place. There are some countries that are easier to get into than others. There's still a few countries that are not so overwhelmed in their immigration offices by Americans and Europeans. But let me tell you, millions of Europeans and millions of Americans are moving to these countries, and they are overwhelming the immigration offices. So they're going to make it more difficult as the day goes by, as every week goes by, to be able to have Americans get in. I think that you have to look at it as you can look at the ones. Ecuador, I've just recently helped a family move to Ecuador with 5 kids. It's an incredible place. There's a lot of people that are moving to Ecuador for various reasons now. It's directly on the equator. It is in the top 5, but all the countries are in the Southern Hemisphere. They're in well, almost all of them are in the top 20. There's a few countries that are in the Northern Hemisphere. But it's difficult to get into some countries. Look at Australia and New Zealand. You have to have a lot of money. You have to speak English. You have to be young, yet you have to have spent your whole career in the same business. It's a point system. There's no easy country to move into. I mean, if you had, let's say, if I owned a country, just me, just let anybody in? No, of course not. We let all the criminals in? No, of course not. Want educated people, people that aren't going to leech off of the government, et cetera. So there's things that you have to do, but I've done it. I've helped a bajillion people do it. It's not that difficult. If you have a will to do it, it can be done. And because this new passport application process that's impossible to fill out is relatively new, I'm going to pass on my personal opinion, stick with as much fact as I possibly can. The fact of the matter is right now, and I think people will see this, that people are playing Russian roulette. I mean, I'm not talking one bullet in a 6-chamber and spinning the revolver and pointing the gun to your head. I think you got 2 bullets in the chamber right now. The worst thing that could ever happen to any human being, and I've thought about this in my near 60 years of life on this planet, is regrets. I don't want any regrets, and especially when it comes to my wife and my 2 teenagers. I want to do what's right by them, and I think that everybody listening to my voice right now doesn't want to have regrets. They want to have options. They want to live. They want to live a high quality of life. And I think that they know there's something is going on in the world, and especially in this country, just people that are looking for a better life now. We could look at this as, why are the millions of people that are leaving every year leaving? They're leaving for a lot of different reasons. Some do see the handwriting on the wall, but other people are looking for a better way of life. And it's like we live on one planet. People have moved from L.A. to Chicago or from San Francisco to Miami. It's a move. There's some paperwork that you have to get into to any country. They're just not going to let anybody in. But it's for a better way of life. And because I've done it, it's one of the best things I've ever done, because I have a higher quality of life, found just immense amount of peace and tranquility and meaning in life by moving, and feel good about it. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, but what's the alternative? Do you want to live in a country where you are tracked and traced and you could lose it all right now? I mean, you could lose everything you've got right now because we live in the most litigious society in the world. Somebody could sue you, and I don't care how much insurance that you have, just you paying attorneys could bleed you dry. We live in a society in this country that you could lose it all 100 different ways. You know, the vast majority of bankruptcies, and bankruptcies have become more difficult because of laws that Congress have passed, but the vast majority, way over 50% of all bankruptcies, are due to medical bills. And those are with people with insurance, medical insurance, okay? So how would you like to live someplace where everything is healthy and organic and people live a longer life? The country that I moved to has a higher life expectancy, has a higher literacy rate than the United States, has just, percentages of the crime that the United States has. The people are real. Let me tell you about a libertarian society. And I don't want to get into politics because it's a tough subject, but I live in a society. All the major world globalists, Ted Turner, who says, population of the planet, no more than 500 million people. That means more than 9 out of 10 people on the planet has got to go, according to Ted Turner. He owns tons of land in the southern part of South America. George Soros, who can make one statement and ruin a country, ruin an economy. There's very few people as powerful as he is. He owns tons of land in this area as well, too, in southern South America. The vast majority of the globalists have safe havens in the safe havens. They have it. They know what's going on. They know what's coming down. Now, Russia, the United States, and a few other countries have a lot of underground cities where they're going to take their political leaders when we have nuclear war, or let's say Planet X, Nibiru, this brown star. I mean, there's a bajillion scenarios out there that are coming down the pike. They all have their sort of safe haven. But if the globals say 9 out of 10 people got to go, but I think the vast majority of the people in the United States government are not aware and things like that. The government came to me and said, you cannot do this. You cannot tell people the truth. They market their disinformation. They are going to protect the truth and not let it out. And I've talked to people, high government positions and different things. I know there are people that know what's going on and what's coming down. It's kind of hush-hush in certain circles, and in other circles, they're planning and preparing for this. I tell you what, if we have a polar flip and the ice melts at both poles, if we have some major disasters in some ways, if the seas rise 20 feet, 1 billion people are going to be displaced. That's 1 out of every 7 people on the planet. There's some things that are going down, and they know the scenarios, and they're preparing for themselves. They're not preparing for you or me. The government came to me, we're talking Washington, D.C. officials, came to me and said, you can't say this. And I said, what about free speech? And I said, there is no such thing as free speech. I'm not fighting the government. I never want to fight the government. And I'm not going to spend $100 million in attorney's bills, fighting the government. I don't like that sort of thing. I don't believe in the left-right paradigm. I actually believe they want everybody in a left-right paradigm. That means the left hates the right and the right hates the left. and they keep everybody in this country busy hating each other and fighting each other and saying, we're right, no, you're wrong, we're right, this, that, and the other. And yet they're the ones that are about ready to pull the rug out from underneath everybody. We're all drinking fluoridated water. That's what Adolf Hitler used to keep all the people in the concentration camps docile. And so they just kind of walked like a zombie straight to their death. And whether it's the showers or whether in the beginning where they were shooting them in the head and then bulldozing them in those big, huge holes in the ground. I do not believe in the left-right paradigm. So this is what I believe in. I believe in freedom. And whether you're left or you're right, whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, if you're black or white, rich or poor, if you're Catholic, Protestant, atheist, metaphysical, whatever it is, you would want to live in a society where nobody hates you. If you were in a left society, in our government, when the Republicans are in power, they have the IRS and everybody, go after the left people, the Democrats and the people that are the big donors. When the Democrats are in office, they use the same alphabet soup to go after the conservatives. And so, yes, there has been left and right politicians in all these countries in South America as well as South Africa. There's been extreme left and extreme right, and the same thing that's going on in Europe and various other places. I think you have to look at survival. And if you're in a society, and Chile is not that, Chile has some problems and issues with it. I mean, they have a lot of earthquakes, they have volcanoes, they have some issues and things that are natural disasters. Granted, I'm predicting only 10% of the people that die in the world will die of natural disasters, but that's still 10%. That's one bullet in a 10-chamber revolver playing Russian roulette. I think there's places that you have to look at totally. If you don't think there's going to be any earth changes, et cetera, that's not a problem. Retiring. There are various different ways to get into some countries. Ecuador, by the way, is one of the easiest countries to get into right now. That's in my top 5. But there are countries that are more difficult. But it depends on your age. It depends on your finances. There's a lot of variables there. Paraguay is a military dictatorship. Uruguay isn't. Argentina isn't. Chile isn't. Ecuador isn't. Brazil isn't. Most of the southern countries don't have military dictatorship, but Paraguay certainly is. Most of all the countries in South America have a higher standard of living than the United States. In the United States, the vast majority of people are in debt up to their eyeballs. The country in which I live, and similar into Peru, people own their own homes. I mean, we're talking all of them. The country in which I live, less than 3% of all the homes in the whole entire country have a mortgage on them. That means when you buy a home, you pay cash for it. You pay cash for everything. The country that I live in South America, it's all cash. So all those people concerned about those economic, from a Christian standpoint of view, people say mark of the beast or those tracking and tracing, RFID sort of things, that is not going to be the problem that it is going to be in most other countries in the world. The people don't have a concept except the United States if you've never left the United States. Here's a good example that has actually lived and was raised in another country and been to the United States. Brazil, Argentina, all these countries have pros and cons. I can't take the time to get into all of them. They all have their different economic things. The United States have almost twice the unemployment that Argentina has, okay, as an example. So the economic indicators are completely different. Most of these countries that are top 5, top 10, their economies are really moving forward. There's a lot of investment. When I bought my home, and I have a property that's like a miniature national park. I grow all my own food. I'm off the grid. I have my own water source. I mean, everything. When I bought my home 15 years ago, I was the only American in this particular area. Now there's like more than 50 Americans. Now there's more than 50 Europeans. There's a mass exodus out of the United States and Europe. I give the statistics. I give all the documentation. There's millions of people that are leaving, and they are going. Peru's in the top 15. They are going to these countries because you have a higher quality of life. You're playing Russian roulette. You're no different than somebody in Germany, Poland, or whatever, and you're trying to stick it out. If you want to try to stick it out, you can stick it out. But I am predicting 90% of the people living in this country today will be dead in the next 5 to 15 years. The globalists have said it. All the world's religions predict these sorts of things. It's all coming down, and if you want to stick it out and you want to fight for this country, you can. But your relatives, your ancestors left the country of their birth and came to the United States to looking for a better life or fleeing certain death or destruction. You can't say that the people that are leaving the United States are not intelligent or they're not doing the right thing for themselves. It's not for everybody. But go ahead, you stick it out here and you see what happens. Brazil has a different way of looking at life, and Brazil is in the top 5 for sure. But these countries are richer than Americans. This is the facade that we have here. You know what's happened to the housing market. 25% of every home in the United States, people owe more on it than what they could get if they sold it today. They don't own that home. The bank does. And the bank owns their cars, and because their credit card debt, if they sold everything they had, they would end up with either negative or very, very little, maybe the clothes on their back. In these other countries, everybody owns their home. They own their car. If economic things happen, nothing changes. They grow their food in their backyard. They're self-sufficient. It's not going to be as devastating as the people here in this country that will have absolutely nothing when the economic doo-doo hits the fan. You know, I've traveled the world over, and I've met guys that just grabbed a backpack, and they've been backpacking in different places of the world for 10 years. Where there's a will, there's a way. There have been hundreds of millions. That is not hyperbole. If I use hyperbole, I use bajillions. There have been hundreds of millions of people that have fled the country of their birth since the beginning of time. They have fled Pol Pot, Idi Amin, Stalin, Hitler. They have fled. Millions of people are fleeing the United States. Millions have already left. According to a Zogby poll, tens of millions are planning to leave shortly. They're already making plans. So certainly, if you don't think that you can do it, you can. People have their perception of things. I am a truth seeker. I want all the information that I can possibly grab and put all these pieces of puzzle together, like I talked about the jigsaw puzzle. When you start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, you're going to see the handwriting on the wall in this country, and you're going to want at least an option, whether it's nuclear war, whether it's disease and pandemics, whether it's famine, starvation, hyperinflation, economic disaster, ruthless governments, whether it's a fascist, right-wing Hitler-type takeover or a communist Stalinist takeover of this country or a military dictatorship, if it's natural disasters, global climate change, whatever, there's places that you can go that's going to survive. And statistically, the stats don't lie. That the people that have done it just tell me incredible. Say it's the best thing they've ever done. The FEMA camps, I mean, I'm not going to pick on the United States government per se, but I think that they're prepared. I mean, I think most people have seen the pictures of the millions of coffins they have ready, the body bags. I mean, they're preparing for something. And they create these laws in order to control more American people. I still believe the average American does not know that they're the frog in cold water and they think they're okay and they're now boiling. They're going to be dinner here shortly. It's boiling. They think they're in a hot tub in Vegas. They're not. The massive deception is there. As far as a home, 15 years ago, you could have bought a brand new 3-bedroom, 2-bath, really nice home for probably about $20,000 US where I live. Okay, I live in an expat area, very, very first world, high quality sort of area. But you just have no idea what it's like to buy tomatoes for 10 cents a pound and come back to the United States and buy them for $2 a pound. There's a lot of variables that are going on. Now, there's inflation. There's a lot of things that are changing economies and countries and stuff. But the quality of living and the cost of living I address big time on the website, so you can look at each individual country and what the cost of things are. Certainly, if you went to Switzerland, if you went to Norway, if you went to Italy, you're going to be paying more than you do in the United States. But there are countries that the cheapest viable countries, the best value for your money countries, every place isn't going to be exactly the same. You will see it's not going to be equal everywhere. That is just fact. can be a Protestant, a Catholic, a New Ager. You can believe in anything, and nobody's going to harm you. Have you gone to the Caribbean? Have you gone to Hawaii? It's no different. You just go and you take a week or two vacation, investigate. You do your due diligence. You go, wow, it's a country for me. And since most all the countries are very close together, unless you want to go to Australia or New Zealand.